All right, it's Wheel of Genre. I am Zach.
I'm Bob.
And this week we are like the kid who's running after the school bus as it pulls away from the bus stop. A number of channels on YouTube are doing Occult Detective October. You can find videos everywhere. Everyone's going to be reading it this October. We weren't asked, but that's okay because we want to do it anyways.
We're cool, Zach. We're cool. I'm thrilled about this. Occult Detective, I think it sounds extremely cool. We've read a lot of detective fiction before. We like it a lot. I think Occult Detective is the perfect mix. I think sometimes detective stories are missing the image. And I imagine Occult Detective, it's going to have a supernatural image that will be very original in every story. I think it will bring the thrill of detective work home with that supernatural terror, Zach.
Well, as someone who's currently halfway through season 1 of X-Files, the rewatch of the whole series, Occult Detectives is my bread and butter. I'm just excited for the literary precedent for my favorite show on television. No longer on television. About to be rebooted on television.
Full circle. Yeah, Spooky Mulder. So I think, Zach, one of the best things about Spooky Mulder and the X-Files is not just going along with them for solving these mysteries, but then also seeing how dangerous it gets for them. I think some of the other detectives that we've read, especially with Sherlock, Holmes really gets close to danger all the time. It's almost like an adventure. And I wonder if in these supernatural detective stories, these occult detective stories, if we're going to be getting into, oh my God, the detective's totally going to die this time. Like how often will it be really high stakes for these detectives?
Especially if it's something like beyond a mortal death. It's one thing to have Sherlock Holmes literally hanging on to the edge of a cliff, or maybe there was Moriarty in that scene. But Sherlock Holmes on the is it both of them? Okay. Oh, my memory. But if we feel some kind of like cosmic or soul terror going on here, I think we're in for a good yarn. But right now we're reading every story in the Weird Anthology by Anne and Jeff Vandermeer. And one of my favorite aspects of reading all those weird stories is how often the authors are actually really, really into the occult. Maybe they're members of the Golden Dawn. Maybe they are theosophists. Maybe they just read the leaves at the bottom of their cup after their afternoon tea. I don't know. But my favorite thing is seeing them pepper their short stories with like occult philosophies and being able to pinpoint, okay, where are they drawing this from? What arcane lore are we pulling from here and actually fictionalizing? And my biggest hope is that for the occult detective stories we are going to read, that we can see some of that overflow, some of that creative inspiration of arcane lore being put into text.
Zach, who are we going to read? What is our goal for this month for Occult Detective Fiction Month?
Well, the nice thing about being rebels is that, we do what we want here. And we are not actually going to read a wide array of occult detectives because our favorite author, Algernon Blackwood, who wrote the jaw-droppingly good short story, The Willows, has his own occult detective with a conveniently paced 6 stories written in his entire career. So we are going to read the complete John Silent stories by Algernon Blackwood.
I'm really excited to read Blackwood. It terrified us, The Willows. I think this will be interesting. There's 6 stories. Each one is Dr. John Silence. And from what I know, I've watched 2 really great videos, Scott Bradfield and then Roy Reads Anything. And Roy Reads Anything had a really great point where he said, okay, this is the supernatural in yourself or in nature. So a lot of the time, it seems like John Silence will be finding the natural part of what seems supernatural and kind of takes the spookiness away. But then he says, so if that happens, is it still going to be spooky? Is it still going to be terrifying? So Roy Reads Anything says, yes, it is definitely still terrifying because people are really going through strange happenings. And John Silence, Dr. Silence, is trying to get to the bottom of it, but also getting them into danger throughout the course of these investigations. And then Scott Bradfield, in his video, he said it's not just ghosts or people, but also thoughts that haunt. So thoughts that are persistent and dynamic as forces. And we've seen Blackwood talk about thoughts or talk about thinking that drives you insane. Believing in the monster or thinking about it too much will that's what will kill you, not just the monster. So I'm excited to see like how powerful thoughts are and how they can infect other people. And I'm excited to see the kind of not eclipse, the kind of the mash, the connection between supernatural and psychology going on in these stories.
Yeah, because psychology is such an important part in almost all the detective stories we've read. I mean, Hercule Poirot, the Agatha Christie detective, requires a certain level of, I guess you would say, empathy with the characters who he meets and interacts with. He needs to be able to peer into their soul and understand exactly where they're coming from. Sherlock Holmes, it's much more of a intellectualized approach. He knows everything about everything, and he's tracing all the details together to weave the story, and he knows who solved it. He just has to corner them and get them to admit it. So as a detective, who is John Silence? At what level will the psychic and the psychological blend? I'm really excited to find out. I think that we have a really good month ahead of us.
When we read The Willows, we found out that Algernon Blackwood is really interested in the supernatural, as we know. But what he says, too, is that his fundamental interest is that finding signs and proofs, so not just in his fiction, but in the world. He was going to all of these different clubs, too. So Dr. John Silence is not just a fictional character, it's also his way. I think Blackwood may be exploring these different things that he's been studying, so theosophy, the Golden Dawn, and he's trying to figure out how these things might get you to a deeper truth, because he also says that so many of his stories deal with an extension of consciousness, speculative and imaginative treatment of possibilities outside our normal range of consciousness. So he wants to see what truth is in these stories by just exploring where these detectives can go.
And readers, if you want to hop on and join us for our readings, we would love to have you. We can keep the conversation going in the comments and answer questions as we go. All right, I'll stalk to you later, Bob.
Oh, that was good. Okay, I'll see you in the dark woods at midnight, Zach.